Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of Flesh Wound Fist, where we review and discuss your and our favorite action comedy or straight up action films. This is the world's first and only combination trivia host and professional wrestling announcer of Chilean descent that currently resides in Southern California, Ozzy V. And with me, as always, on this program, first in the Northern California Bay Area, world famous juggler Greg Larson. How you doing, Greg?
I'm swell, and can I just say,
You're
I
swell.
love the
Very nice.
punch that you have oftentimes whenever we're doing a fist episode, because I think the music just
It
amps you
totally
up so
gets
much.
me
It's like,
like
yeah!
I'm amped up when I hear that and just ready to go. Oh no, I want to blow something on myself. Like, of course, like in the controlled, like I want to be like one of the demolition people in a movie that but it like gets me all psyched, like I'm about to watch a Michael Bay movie or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, in terms of just like visual, like popcorn or whatever, visual junk food, I guess you could say. Also with us, ladies and gentlemen, with the ew sound effect is Flash Room producer Todd. How you doing, Todd?
I'm chilling. I want to dedicate this episode to the best Lex Luthor there ever was. Didn't even have to shave his damn head. R.I.P. Gene Hackman.
Rest in peace, Gene Hackman. And I will say props to Max. When you go to stream it now, there's a little clip at the beginning that's in memoriam for Gene Hackman. I thought that was really cool.
Nice.
Nice to see. But man, what to say about Superman? This is like the original superhero movie. It set the standard for everything we see today.
I don't think people have a concept of how big this movie was. The whole "you'll believe a man could fly" thing. It like changed like movies. Like this wasn't like something people thought was possible before that. You had George Reeves in front of a green screen zipping by in the old TV show.
If you are able to displace like your brain from 2025 movies and just put yourself in 1978, it's amazing what they were able to do at that time. And just the way so I think Todd, you accused me of having a boner for Richard Donner in terms of his movies like Joe Dante, right? And initially I denied it, but that was stupid. Like some of the shots he had in this movie, especially where he goes from being young Clark, goes to learn everything, and then comes back and you see him in the suit and you see him fly towards the camera. That's like goosebumps. That for me, that was like a goosebumps, like
100%.
whole like and you just place yourself and you're in 19, you can imagine yourself in the theater and you like you said, Todd, you've only seen George Reeve fly in front of green screen. You're like, oh my gosh. And then to see Christopher Reeve, who there is no, nor will there be a better Superman than him. And his nailing of Clark Kent and Superman, specifically when he's about to tell Lois and you see his posture change there's a story of him going into a bar that was across the street from where they were filming. First he goes in as Clark Kent, dressed as Clark Kent, and nobody notices him and he's hunched over with all this. But then he comes in as Superman and he gets all this attention. And the person who wrote about this says it wasn't that he was wearing the costume, it was his complete demeanor changed. He was able to completely change somebody from a bumbling idiot who's not confident in their abilities to just all of a sudden being Superman, right? So I kind of went off a little bit on that initial thoughts. How about you guys?
Well, I think first off, yes, this is a fantastic film for its historical purposes, and the fact this movie put in a plot point that they weren't even going to use, because it sounds like they had enough confidence that the whole Zod thing, they'd be able to make another movie from. I don't know if they already had a contract for multiple movies.
Oh, they were making them both at the same time. We'll get into a lot of that when we get into the next one.
Got it. So, because this film definitely paved the way for a lot of stuff. And I was interested because it's been a long time since I've seen this flick. So I was curious how it was going to hold up for me. And there are some poor parts of it that I was kind of like, ooh, that's dated, but like the running. But that one was a little rough. But overall, I was stoked for this. Now I do have a question for you guys. When it comes to this, it looked more like Krypton was blowing up because of a supernova of the neighboring sun. but like it's supposed to be that it blew up from the internal core. Like, is there any insight, or am I just reading it wrong on how that went?
Um, if I had to BS my way through it, I would say Jarrell's calculation of the exploding core was as a result of the impending collision with a supernova.
But you'd think they'd be like, we're
don't
gonna
ask
die of
questions,
the
Greg.
supernova.
It's a comic book. Don't ask questions.
There's a few questions. Like even I'm okay suspending disbelief with the flying because Superman can fly. But the fact that Lois Lane can be held by her hand and the physics of that is just put your arms out and you can fly too. Like that part, that I was kind of like, that's a choice. But I
To be
get it
fair,
for
that whole scene's
shot.
for the ladies.
Yeah,
That's
my mom fell in love with
that's how you got that
Superman.
demographic into the theater, right?
Yeah.
Todd,
What was the exact question?
it's initial thoughts.
Oh, initial. Geez, I'm glad I didn't pull them out before this, but I had owned many Superman underoos. Superman was my guy as a kid. There's pictures, full get up, blue pants and all. Maybe when we get to Superman 3, I'll bust it out.
Now, what is the oldest age that these sort of pictures
I'm
exist?
still in
18.
Well, no, technically when I was 18, I did do a different character called Captain Savaho who did have a similar outfit. But that's a different thing. He had a red cape, blue thing, but a big C on and anyone knows E40, they'll get it. I don't know that outfit when I grew out of him, so I probably made it to 9 or 10. I don't know what. But no, I mean Superman. Yeah, even George Reeves before. Well, I was probably watching them about the same time because it came out in '78. I was 2 at the time. I think I saw it on its second theatrical run before Superman 2 came out because that's what they used to do back then. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I know people say the character doesn't work now, and I kind of
does he? Does he not work? Why do they say he doesn't work?
It's weird. I know. Well, the majority of there's a lot of white comic fans, and I think there's a bit of, I think now Superman would get deported for showing up, but I think there's a lot of kind of like Thundercats is another property that, people of color are gravitated to, an outsider coming to America. And I just don't think that's as gravitated to now.
I mean, just the one line that they have of "I fight for truth, justice, and the American way," and Lois responds with, "You're gonna have to fight every elected official." I think he still works.
Yeah, that one holds true. Yeah. That was really that was interesting, and I just realized we did not show the trailer.
You're right. We just went straight in.
I was so excited to get into it. Let's show the trailer.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Good job, Ozzy.
Thank you.
My friends, I'm not given to wild and unsupported statements. And I tell you that we must evacuate this planet immediately.
Jor-El, be reasonable.
Once there was a civilization, much like ours, but with a greater intelligence, greater powers, and a greater capacity for good. Tragic moment, that world was destroyed. But there was one survivor.
Now, wouldn't that beat all get out?
because of the wisdom and compassion of Jor-El, because he knew the human race had the capacity for goodness, he sent us his only son. His
I gotta
name
blur it.
is Kal-El. He will call himself Clark Kent. But the world will know him as Superman. This year, Superman brings you the gift of flight. Superman, the movie.
Well, I guess we get like, yeah. Damn, look how far down
credits on a trailer. That's
look how. Well, I mean, it was a big event thing. Like even like being able to like see the trailer on the big screen, I'm sure was a big deal. See, you understand also why I was like between the modern and the new ones. I wasn't sure. I went back and forth.
Oh yeah, between the modern trailer and the new. What I found interesting in that whole trailer, you didn't hear his theme once.
Yeah.
They protected that theme for when you first saw him in full like gear and ready into it. That's
40 minutes into the movie.
But I mean, and that was great writing. So just to go into the official stuff here, released on December 15th, 1978, rated PG with a runtime of 143 minutes, directed by Richard Donner. Now, here's where it gets a little crazy. Character created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, both Jewish immigrants, by the way. Story was by Mario Puzo, writer of The Godfather, the novel, and screenplay by Mario Puzo, David Newman, Leslie Newman, and Robert Benton. So the Marlon Brando connection, Mario Puzo, I thought that was great. I think when you first said this could, like, some people say it can't work today, when we're talking about the character of the movie,
the character,
right? Okay. It's really, I mean, I don't want to get into a discussion about like just the Superman character, because then we'll delve into Man of Steel and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But strictly speaking to this movie, and at the time it was released, its pacing is a little bit slower than what you would find normally in today's comic book movies, which I tried showing a 13-year-old, and he couldn't hang. Right?
Yeah, 40 minutes until you get that's an ask now.
It is, and then even then, it's not complete. Like there's still some stuff that sets up towards the end, right? You need to be paying attention to what Lex Luthor's doing, and also paying attention to when Lois is interviewing Superman, and he says, "I have trouble seeing through lead." She's writing that in the paper, and then you see that they're reading the papers. Of course, they're going to learn all his week or whatever they can find out about him. So there's just bits and pieces. You just kind of have to see the story that they're trying to tell you, and you're not going to get a fight scene every 5 minutes now.
I do know which one he'll probably enjoy, though, but we'll save that for later.
And to be fair, you don't really get much of a superhero fight scene. I mean, he's just stopping stuff for the most part.
I mean,
once he makes his debut, like by with the helicopter, he starts, okay, now I'm going to start saving some stuff, right?
Yeah.
People are seeing him for the first time and stuff.
Well, because I mean, like he's not. I mean, one punch, Lex Luthor's done. I mean, so it's like it is really it is. You know, we're getting ready for the big one in the second one, but like this movie is like I never need to see Superman's introduction again. Like, and I'm glad James Gunn is just like, no,
we don't need to show an origin.
No,
yeah.
This did it. We're good. I don't need to ever see it again. Like, I think that just needs to go away. It's just part of the lore now. And I'm glad that's what, hopefully we continue doing that, because every time you reboot a franchise, I got to watch Batman's parents get killed. Okay, time to see, So
we'll say the last Batman movie didn't do that. They just talked about it. So, but I mean, like that, I appreciated that. I'm sorry, moving on.
But
we'll eventually get to that one. But okay, Greg, did you get some initial thoughts in?
Oh yeah.
We all did our initial. We did the initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I was going through mine.
I'm not super. Yeah. So I guess right now we can get into our favorite moments of this. I have a funny line, but I also have like just like a solid like story. Just wow, that was like just kind of like showed his humanity. And I think I'm gonna go with that one. Um, everybody's seen this by now, so you can't give like a spoiler like no spoiler warnings here. But there's an earthquake that's prompted, and Lois Lane gets swallowed up in a car, which I believe was initially filmed for the second, intended to be for the second film, but it was
Yes,
put in the first.
at a certain point, the Scollins were like, okay, we got to stop because they were filming them both concurrently. And so at some point, they were like,
Producers of the
yeah,
film, okay.
at some point, they were like, we got to just focus on one and finish one to hit the release date. So at that point, I think 40% of Superman 2 was complete. And they just went and they decided to move the ending from the second one to the first one because it was a bigger finale than what they had originally planned.
It also kind of fit because with you not having a superhero battle, you at least see something equally as important to Superman happen in this movie, and that is the death of Lois Lane that forces him to do what is forbidden. But what I found humorous is when he does that, he goes back and he gets to Lois and he pulls her out, and then she just starts complaining. He just has a brief just sigh of relief and then just goes on. And I think that's just kind of a testament to his character of more like he doesn't have time to like, okay, that was a close one. I got it. I'm good now, move on to the next thing instead of like, oh my God, I almost lost you. And like just acting like he had just seen her die. Instead, it was just a brief, glad that's over, and then just moves on. And it's almost like it's almost indicative of how the character's mindset moves. Like in almost when he's like saving people after everything starts exploding, saves Jimmy and plus Jimmy explaining, saying, "What are you doing? Leaving me out there with no food, no water?" Like that's humorous. But how he's just able to go from point to point to point, and just like the focus he's able to display in his eyes of just that's why you're able to believe him as you could believe, like if you saw Christopher Reeve in real life, you'd think like, he's really Superman. He's just pulling this Christopher Reeve thing as like a joke. You could believe that just because of the way he pulled it off.
Yeah.
It was great. And I just got to throw in the Lex Luthor line where he's telling Otis, he says, "Do you know why the number 200 is descriptive for the both of us? Why? That's your weight and my IQ." Great line. Who's next?
Todd, go ahead.
All right. Well, this isn't my favorite moment. I do want to throw this out. I've always loved the opening with the 4x3 TV and then showing you that this is a movie and we go pull out to the widescreen, anamorphic scope format and do the credits. Always love that. Okay, I'm going to save my favorite line because I think you guys should know what it is. But one thing I wanted to bring up, like that's, I guess, kind of funny now. The child abuse. Some guy just flew and got my cat out of a tree, and then you just hear the moms. Haven't I told you to stop telling lies?
Hear the slap.
Yikes! Gen X. And then, but my favorite line is obviously, "There's only one peeing rapist." I told you, Lois. I mean, how did you not know that was coming?
That's fair.
So just to piggyback on what you said, you love the beginning, how it opens up with like as though it's a TV, and then it just immerses you in, and then it rolls the credits. It's almost like that was like a huge moment just in terms of all over cinema, because it's basically saying we're taking superheroes from your TV now to the big screen because now we can pay for it, right?
Well,
and look at what we've seen since then. It's just this was the first, this was the original. While I guarantee anybody accustomed to today's movies would have a hard time watching this, but for those that are able to displace themselves and put themselves in a theater in 1978 would absolutely love this movie and can just be lost in its wonder and fantasy. And if you're able to do that, this movie can never get old. It's just so it's iconic and it's classic. And I mean, it's going to be a 5 for me for sure, but I just can't get over like how not only is it a good movie overall, but when you look at its place in its history and what it was able to provide. And a note, Greg, when we reviewed Friday, you wanted to mention a favorite moment, like an honorable mention towards the soundtrack.
Mhm.
John Williams scoring this movie, there will never be, I mean, almost like Christopher Reeve is the best Superman and no one's going to be better than him. John Williams, it had the best superhero film score. And you can almost tell by listening to it that he, like, this
Take
is
that,
something.
Elfman.
What's that? Well, no, I mean, like,
no,
no, Elfman had a fantastic score for
Right.
Batman, but between Elfman and Williams, you can't, anybody today, like Hans Zimmer's great and Alan Silvestri before he did the Avengers, like that's cool, but like in the overall scoring of the movie of just like, it was because into the, like we discussed about today's comic movies, it's like so heavy on action based and
Right.
all the stuff going on, but when you look at Superman, so yes, he's an alien from another planet, but he still has a human heart because he fell in love with this woman and he means the world to her, and that makes him just as human as everybody else, right? So
I've never understood the decision to not use the music. That's like, we don't want to use that Star Wars music. Never mind, we're good. It doesn't make any sense if you're making a Superman movie to not use the iconic music.
You can't. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
What's brilliant about that song too is like it's one of those themes that you can slow it down, still use the same notes and everything and cadence, but like just slow it to then create a more impactful moment, and then you can speed it up for like the action. So it's great that that same exact sound can be used in so many different ways. It's a very versatile song and anthem for Superman.
The opening credits itself captures the kind of like excitement people had. Like I wasn't alive during 1978, but when the credits start, the TV fades out and there's that kind of like faint horns, blowing out, and then all of a sudden when the screen widens and then you hear that dun 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 dun, it's almost like, oh man, this is happening, it's real. So he captures everything, and then the fact that he transitions from that, getting you hyped for this superhero, right, into a romantic scene. That song, I mean, it's okay. So Greg, you and I worked for Disney, and there is a period of time when every year they would show us a sappy slideshow where they would take photos of kids with characters and they would just make us all like, oh, we love working or whatever, right? And they would use that slideshow to that song. And a lot of people didn't know that song came from Superman just because it seemed like a separate, wondrous type of special song on its own. And to have that kind of range in a movie, I mean, that it was just a blast to hear. And unfortunately, you're never going to hear anything like that ever again outside these movies. I mean, I know James Gunn isn't using John Williams for this latest Superman, but I'm hoping he at least uses the theme, because at least in Superman Returns came out, 2008, I think, 2006, 7, 8, the Brandon Ruth one. That at least used that theme. It was
and the
scored
credit
by John Ottman, but they credited to John Williams and used the theme for it. Well, I'm sorry, what did you say, John?
I said, yeah, and use the credits also. I do admit I have a soft spot just because that was like that's when like that music and that opening, like seeing Superman Returns, like after that lack of Christopher, that music was powerful. I remember the reaction.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It made you think the movie was going to be good.
Yeah. And it kind of made me think it was for a little while after. I still
coming out of the theater, you were like, "Hey, that was fun."
It's funny. Like, my issue was always Kevin Spacey. Didn't like him as Lex Luthor. Still don't. I mean, beyond other things.
Personally, it was from more of the Lois Lane was kind of flat. Like,
wow, jeez.
No, what I mean, no, shut up. I just meant in terms of like,
I didn't like. Yeah, I get it.
The reporter aspect. I mean, Margot Kidder, you bought her as being like that kind of annoying person who's gonna get the answer she needs, right? Doesn't care who she pisses off, and the other. I mean, if we get to that, we'll eventually discuss Kate Bosworth's performance, but Margot Kidder, and I didn't even mention who this film was starring, but because we saw the entire list in the trailer, threw me off. But of course, you have Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, Gene Hackman, and Marlon Brando as Jor-El. So have we gone through all our favorite moments?
No, I have not done my favorite.
Okay,
moment
I'm sorry,
yet.
Greg. Go ahead.
It's all good. So my favorite moment so there's the scene, the romantic scene where they come back, and then Lois goes back into her apartment, and then Clark shows up for their date, and Lois starts to walk away all frazzled. She's like, "Okay, yeah. Let me get ready," and the look that Clark has, where he's like, he realizes his true pimp status at that point in time. I was just like, yeah, didn't even need to say a word. So
Yeah,
well played.
he was the perfect casting for Clark
Yeah.
Kent Superman, and as good as I'm a huge fan of Henry Cavill's performance, and
Mhm.
I'm sure this David Cornswit's going to do great, but Christopher
No,
Reeve's the GOAT.
no one has nailed both characters as well as Christopher Reeve.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
Like, I mean, you believe he's the two different ones. It's not just the glasses, people. I know people like to throw it off on that, but it is, and you see it in the performance, like you said, when he transforms in front of your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
One little Easter egg, I don't know if anyone caught, that the original Lois Lane from not only the George Reeves series, also the old serials pops up in this in the scene, and as Greg brought up earlier, the running scene by the train.
Oh yeah,
she's actually in the train with the little girl, and I don't know if it's Jimmy Olsen, but people have said it is. But either way, in the theatrical version, which is the one we did all watch, there's no dialogue, but in I believe it's in the special edition, which has about 6 minutes longer, but it's not canon now because of Richard Donner Superman 2. That's a whole nother thing. But there's actually a little bit of dialogue that she spoke, so you actually hear. It's also in the longer version. There is 3 versions of the movie, if we didn't say earlier. There's the theatrical version, there's the special edition, which runs about 6 minutes longer, has a couple extra scenes, and then there's the extended edition, formerly known as the KCOP cut, named after the Los Angeles station that originally ran the movie over 2 nights in 2 2-hour blocks. So without commercials, it runs 3 hours, which is the longest cut. That one's problematic to watch before the second one, especially if you're watching the Donner version, because a lot of that extra footage that didn't make it into Superman 1 made it into Superman 2 for the Donner cut.
Now, have you guys seen the Superman and Lois, the most recent Superman series?
I haven't started it, but I've heard it's very good.
That I would even nominate them as the people who played Clark and Lois were a great pair, and I'd say one of the better Loises of the Superman's catalog.
Better than Terry Hatcher. Though maybe I will give her most attractive Lois Lane, but
fair. Yeah.
All right, so getting into ratings, it's a 5 all the way for me. This is a classic, and displacing yourself from 2025 and putting yourself in 1978, it's a marvel, for lack of a better term, no pun intended. Even though it's DC, but it's almost like, I'm not comparing the two to be equal, but I'm saying to a certain degree, when it comes to like film or cinema, Man Walking on the Moon, how that was important for like just
another
space
great special
exploration.
effect. Is that what?
No, but I just meant in general for like points in history, like man landing on the moon's a huge point in American history. If you're looking at American cinema, this paved the way for
believing
everything.
A man could fly.
Everything we see in regards to superheroes today. So it's a 5 for me. How about you guys?
How can you not? It's definitely a 5. Even one of the coolest moments, even I tried to put myself back during that era, but like to have those 3 imprisoned in this like flat, prison.
The Phantom Zone.
Yeah, the Phantom Zone. But like seeing that like flip around like that, you're just like, oh, that's such a cool concept, like how I just wonder how people like reacted when they saw that. But all around great film. It's 5 for me.
Todd?
Yeah, absolutely. My second favorite superhero, but a 5 for me.
All righty. Well, Well, I mean, for those curious, what makes it your first?
Oh, Toxic Avenger, obviously. Come
Oh,
on.
of course, right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, this concludes our review of Superman the movie. We will be back with the review of its sequel, and we're going to be discussing the theatrical versions as well as the Richard Donner cut. And Pugs is going to come back to join us. If you caught the Batman Tim Burton episode, he's going to come back and join us to discuss Superman 2. And next week, though, we are going to be back with a brand new episode of Flesh Wound Farce. Do you guys have anything else you have before we head out for the evening? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I just got to say before we head out, if you will be in the Orange County area this week, I'll be hosting trivia this Tuesday at the Rush Barn Grill in Lake Forest, beginning at 7 o'clock, and this Wednesday at the brewery in Placentia, also beginning at 7 o'clock. As always, free to play and prizes for the top-winning teams. Come out and have some fun. And if you guys don't have anything else, for world-famous juggler Greg Larson and Flesh Wound producer Todd, I'm Ozzy V, and we'll see you next time right here on a brand new episode of Flesh Wound Farce.